I'm now going to introduce David for the keynote speech. So, David, take us away.
Hi, obviously we're running chronically late, but don't worry, we won't eat into your networking/refreshments time. We have a plan. If I can make this work, which is potentially possible. Yeah, less possible than I might have hoped. It's all right, I'm getting thumbs up signals from the back. Great. Good. So, hi, my name's David. I'm a co-founder and I look after analytics and strategy at the Tapestry Agency. It's great to see lots of familiar faces and lovely to see many new ones too. This could have been a presentation full of numbers, and for those who know me, you'll be slightly surprised at how few there are. But I have hopefully filled it with some thoughts and advice for 2023. But first of all, we have to know what's been happening. And I'll start that from a macro perspective. So, inflation-adjusted GDP is trundling along at just below pre-COVID levels. We've yet to catch up. The growth forecast for 2023 is somewhere between -2.5% and -0.5%. So, not getting significantly worse, but also not growing. But, as with any economic forecast, the old adage holds true. Put two economists in a room and get at least two opinions. We understand we're not just selling to the UK, but we estimate that 70% of the revenue from retailers in this room comes from the UK. So that's our primary focus in this keynote. So what's happening from a retail perspective? That's the overall economy, but what's retail been looking like? Well, overall retail, and I take fuel out of this, in 2022 was plus 5% on the previous year in revenue terms. Doesn't seem too bad. The challenge comes is that volumes were minus 4%. And that's because of this big old number here, inflation averaging through the year at just over 8%. So the 8% inflation means the revenue growth figure is a significant overstatement of what people are actually feeling out there. But this is total retail. What about direct to consumer? Well, the good news is that internet sales as a percentage of total retail are still well above the long-term trend. But actually, it's getting a bit closer. And it's still adjusting downwards. If we look at that in a bit more detail, on average, we've seen a 3.5% point drop since last year on the percentage of retail coming through online. That adjustment has continued in January. Irritatingly, February figures aren't published until tomorrow, but we expect that to be somewhere around 2.5% to 3% down still. At trend levels, we'd expect that to stabilise around quarter two of 2023. So, looking back, if 100% of your sales are internet-based, you should have been at least 11% down since April. But you were also battling on the other front that retail itself was 4% down. So 15% down was your starting point last year before we even started any of our marketing. So we were definitely battling some headwinds. We use IMIG data quite a lot. We like it. We find it to be a relatively solid bellwether for the industry. IMIG supports the previous two slides to some extent, but shows an average of just 5% down in half two. Lots of retailers are telling us they felt a bit more of an impact than that. This graph also shows pretty clearly the downturn in December, driven at least in part by the Royal Mail strikes and the impact that had on people's perception of direct-to-consumer and its ability to deliver. This graph, however, is where the power of multi-channel is masking the story for some of us. When we look at online-only businesses, we see a significantly lower level of performance. Averaging there at about 10% down. 10% down, we have to remember, feels much more like 20% down because of our 8 or 9% inflation we've been hitting. And, as always, different sectors have had different impacts. Gifting had a really, really tough year, with November as the only respite in that really difficult area. Clothing started really strong and has tailed off. Health and beauty is coming back to average after a really, really challenging 9 or 10 months. But what else has been out there? Cost increases over the previous 2 years in media have not generally been compensated by increasing responses or yields. Yields have improved, certainly for many, but not at the same rate. And we don't necessarily see any real reversal of this in the next year. There are continued changes in the paid search space, and I'm trying to work out where Kate are. And they will certainly know and be able to go into it in more detail than I can. But there has been blurring of lines with PMAX and how PMAX is used across multiple areas of search and across video media and a whole host of other areas as well. GA4, and those who don't know that GA4 is coming in, you're really starting to miss the boat. GA4 and the changes in the way it measures web behavior start to make year-on-year comparisons very difficult unless you've had parallel running for a considerable length of time. New customer recruitment has been a real challenge for most of the people we talk to and work with. Turbulent economic times lead to customers being nervous about new. And new is your brand to anyone who hasn't shopped from it before. People are much more likely to stick with what they know and find it more difficult to take the risks. Cookie changes, I'll just put this up every year. They're still coming, probably. And then continued tech development, and I put this up because sometimes it feels like even by running at full tilt to keep up with tech development changes, sometimes it feels like you're standing still. So there's a lot of things in there, a lot of changes, a lot of challenges. But where are we now? Who doesn't like an emoji? Reasons to be cheerful. UK is not in recession and probably, possibly, maybe, won't be. I wrote this 2 days ago. Annoying that. Inflation is on the wane. Well, it kind of was, and I still expect it to be. I still think last month was just an annoying blip in the ongoing trend of downward behaviour. But I do think inflation is on the wane, and we do expect it to be falling to sub 5% by about the last quarter of this year. GDP back to pre-COVID levels, give or take. Consumer confidence on the really unexpected rise. So January and February had a real flick in an improvement in consumer confidence ratings that was totally unexpected by the marketplace. And the most positive business confidence that we've seen for 19 months. However, I can't put on a smiley face without the alternative. The UK economy will still shrink. How much so, I don't know, but it's likely to shrink this year. There will still be significant inflation in half one, which we're fighting against, and it's still in double digits. Consumer confidence, while it is up, is still well behind last year. But I know I'd much rather be on a rising consumer confidence curve than a falling one. We haven't yet really felt the full impact for our customers of 4% interest rates. We haven't really felt what that means to their shopping habits. Will there be continued interest rate rises? Again, I wrote this 2 days ago, so who knows anymore. But until the collapse of Silicon Valley and the Credit Suisse rescue, I'd have said they were nailed on. And then that happened, and then I said they probably weren't going to happen, and then inflation went up, and then your guess is as good as mine. I'm betting on a 0.25% rise today. We'll know in an hour and a half. And of course, we've got the ongoing Ukraine war and the problems caused by that. So that's where we are. What are we expecting from 2023 trends? Well, what we saw in... Oh, that has worked. Good. What we saw in the latter half of 2022 was shopping polarization, and that's meaning that luxury and discounters were faring significantly better than mid-market. It's a trend that we're expecting to continue to see through at least the first half of 2023. I talked last year about the shift from volume to quantity. It's continuing. People are expecting value for money. And the UK is perhaps finally beginning to embrace the pounds per use rather than just the amount of pounds it's costing. Innovation. 2023 will be an innovating year for most. It doesn't mean spending all of our cash in the metaverse. That isn't necessarily what innovation is. Innovation for your customer base may just be a more seamless integration of existing channels, or a bit more personalization, or a bit more relevance. Efficiency. When times are tough, efficiency always gets laid pretty hard on the table. It doesn't matter where your efficiency gains are, but you will be looking for them. Better understanding of your marketing channel mix, accelerating transformation through technology, building greater supply chain resilience, investing in financial sustainable business models. Whatever it is, you will be looking, and people will be looking for efficiency gains. ESG, who doesn't like a TLA? So environmental, social and governance. It's not just about net zero. It's not just about saying we're heading towards a B Corp status, we're heading towards net zero. It's all about you and your brand living their environmental, social and governance beliefs through everything and every way they do things. People. This is an absolutely terrible representation of people. This is some homogenous group of identical looking people with variable needs. What I'm talking about is your people, your team. They need to be excited, enthused, empowered. In a time of significant change and economic uncertainty, the best organisations maintain a laser focus on their people and their people's well-being. At its core, retail is, after all, a people business. I then started to get bored with writing my own slides, coming up with my own ideas for an opening speech. So I turned to a trusted friend. I turned to ChatGPT and I said, how will AI influence retail in 2023? And then I didn't have to think for myself at all. It told me that there are 6 points. Personalisation. AI can be used to personalise the shopping experience for individual customers. For example, it can be used to recommend products to customers based on their browsing and purchase history, as well as their social media activity. Oh, I'll have some of that. Predictive analytics. AI can be used to analyse data from various sources, such as customer sales, social and media, to make predictions about customer behaviour and trends in the market. This can help retailers make better decisions. Good job we're using a bit of that already. Inventory management. AI can be used to optimise the management of industry. It can be used to predict demand from products or categories, track inventory levels in real time, and automate reordering processes. Chatbots. AI can obviously help in automating those tasks. Sorry, that didn't skip into the right order. Automation of repetitive tasks. Let's do it in reverse then. AI can be used to help automate repetitive tasks, mundane tasks like price checking. Chatbots, obviously, many are using AI already, and many more will continue to do so, and be able to provide better product recommendations than they ever are able to at the moment. And then image recognition. So AI will be better at recognising images to allow people to search and be able to understand what products are online and be able to cross-browse based on individual products. So, I didn't have to write that, so that was a treat. So what should I do? Well, really, from a starting point from a marketing area is to understand your marketing mix, optimize it, and then optimize within it. So we all know the basic parameters of my marketing, but what do I mean by my owned channels? I mean my website, my blog, my permissioned customers. I don't own the customers, but I do own the permissions associated with those customers. So what should I be doing there? Well, on your website, 95% of visitors aren't buying. Yet user experience and CRO testing are rarely the high priority I believe they should be. For example, we move that 95% of people not buying to 94.5% of people not buying, and you've nailed on a 10% growth, all other things remaining equal. Permission to communicate. In increasing the communicatability, that's obviously I've made up that word, increasing how we're able to communicate with customers increases the value of those customers to your business between 20 and 55%. Yet we rarely use our best copywriters to make sure we're selling that benefit to the customers of why we should be able to be talking to you. Communication programs. For example, like a new customer nursery program. Over time, these become full of holes. You write the code in the best way you possibly can when you set up the program, and over time you leave it to run. And what happens is you introduce 25 other programs that all overwrite it, and you realize that your programs are in fact in conflicting areas to each other. It's worth going back and re-understanding those. Triggers in your owned area. Have you got anniversary purchase, birthday, back in stock now on sale, new colour available, time to buy again? Have you got the right triggers set up to make sure you're communicating with your customers on a relevant and or personalised way? Promotions. Most people think of promotions in a slightly dirty way, but should they be? Are we talking about individual targeted promotions to individual people or site-wide promotions for all? If everyone's getting the same and everyone's getting all promotions, it's probably time for a rethink. And then personalisation on your site. One size doesn't fit all. One size hasn't fit all for a very long time. But are we doing enough about it? We talk a great deal about the paid area, so I'll mostly gloss over it. Apart from, do we really understand how incremental each of our paid channels are, and are we really driving efficiency as hard as we might be through those areas? And then obviously the mostly unloved third spoke of earned. Is your content being liked, shared and talked about? If it's not, why are you creating it? Are your brand and product reviews painting the right picture of you? If you are being talked about, are you listening and are you responding? And how are you doing that? How are you putting your brand message out there, and how are you asking people to engage with it to give you the right to the earned media? But be sure to look at all of this through a customer lens. It's far too easy to over-focus on individual channels and the channel of delivery, and very easy, effectively, to forget customer. But then be sure what part of the marketing mix you're trying to impact and measure accordingly. As an industry, we zero in on conversion because it's the easiest to measure, probably. But we ignore the others at our peril. Measuring conversion rate for a paid campaign designed to drive brand awareness will definitely fail. It will make it look like the campaign's an absolute disaster. But if you're trying to drive awareness, don't measure conversion. So, priorities for 2023 as I wrap up. Know your customer. Your customers should be talking to you. Take time to listen. They talk through their purchases. They talk through what returns they make. They talk through their reviews, their email engagement, their bounce rates, their dwell time, their social comment. And then once you've done all that, actually take time to talk to them. Now, whether that's through setting up actual focus groups or doing online focus groups or doing email surveys, talk to your customers, understand what their needs are, and make sure you're delivering against those. Now is really the time to understand how your marketing investments convert into profit. But don't let perfect be the enemy of progress. Just be better tomorrow than today. Understand tomorrow more than you understand today, and you will continue to drive the efficiencies through. Innovate and automate. Think about AI as potentially a new team member. Deploy and onboard it in the same way you onboard them. On automation, the majority of roles have a great deal of repeated tasks, which are generally loathed. Could automation save 10% of your headcount? Really think it through. Make it a focus of your business. Live your environmental, social and governance policy beliefs right through the business. Not just for your customers, but for you and your teams. The youngest part of the workforce is more motivated by ambitions and practices in this area than ever before. Make sure you understand that. While you can measure just about everything, you shouldn't. Understand what core metrics are the success drivers of your business, and double down your focus where it matters. Make sure you understand what your leading, most predictive metrics are, and be sure to have a measurement frequency that allows you to spot behavioural changes early, and then make sure you can do something about it. Are you where your customer is being influenced? Editorials on favourite media sites, integrated ads on blogs, content on their most used platforms. Make sure you are where they are. And, almost most importantly, have a clarity of vision that empowers bold decision-making. It is that clarity of vision that will allow your teams to go away and make those really great decisions because they are following the path that you have set. I love to reuse at least one slide, and this year is no exception, because actually this doesn't change. I said before that almost the most important thing was a clarity of vision. For me, the most important thing is continue to develop agility. Agility in your business will allow you to make a decision a day, a week, a month, 6 months, a year before your competition, and that will put and keep you at a significant competitive advantage. Thank you very much. We move straight on to our first round tables. So I believe you all have personalised agendas. See, we can personalise. We all have personalised agendas, and we will be holding up for the people who are running the tables notices to tell you when your 5 minutes are, so to make sure we wrap up on time, to make sure we take back a bit of the time we've overspent.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to say, it's going to be a bit shorter. And you're going to hear this at the end when we need to all change.
Who doesn't love that noise? Thank you.